want to talk about headache. And some occasions I have successfully warded it off. May not be so common with some of us, really older adults, but it's something that can be so distressing when it happens. There are different types of headaches. Why I thought to actually talk this now, and then let us see as many people can, come on and join this life. They'll benefit a lot, because most times when people experience a minor headache, maybe at the back, front, in the middle, or any other kind of headache, because there are different types of headache. But one particular food that I have used successfully on 2 occasions is what I want to share now in this life. On one occasion, I've successfully, several years ago, been able to ward off a headache that may have been related to stress and acidic foods. And what do I mean by acidic foods? I've realized that when we consume too much acidic foods like meat is an acidic food. It's a good example of a healthy food, but it's acidic. So when we consume such foods, like in this case too, when we consume such foods continuously, because it takes long chain digestion. When you talk of foods like meat, they're not foods that you just consume and they're just so quickly and you just take up another one. So in most cases, when we, out of ignorance, consume foods like that, and maybe we happen to have an opportunity to have another free one, because free foods are sweet. Some of us quickly fall for it. And then after a few hours, because it doesn't just happen, you don't just start feeling the headache immediately. Because if you start feeling headache immediately, welcome that guest. Okay. If you start feeling that headache immediately, you may not continue with that food. But because it's something that must have to settle over time before you begin to feel it. So you just go ahead and eat and enjoy yourself. But after several hours, the result of the acids will begin to show up in different ways. And sometimes it comes like a pounding headache. And God help you if it's accompanied also with stress. It will be a very terrible one. And most people quickly run for over-the-counter medication for a quick resolution of the headache. It's not to say that when you are in distress, that you shouldn't look for a way out of it. That is actually what most people will do. But if you have knowledge on what led to it, you have some level of confidence. Like in this case that I want to share, I have 2 cases with us, and I want you to listen to the end. Now, if you suspect that it was due to something you did, maybe long throat, as I said, that actually caused it, and you know what to do, you may not have to be troubled. You will just start walking to regain your balance. So I have said over time that most illnesses occur when we lost our internal balance. When the balance is lost, you have to regain it. The acid and alkaline balance. And not only acid and alkaline balance, but there are a lot of other things that must be at a certain balance before you can say yes, that you can feel well. But where you lost it, you may be able to fix it back, to reset it. So I always like to put it, to reset it. Yes, you can reset it back and then regain, restore what was lost. Or if it is something that was in excess, you take it out, you look for a food. There's always something that Mother Nature has created to help to resolve that excess. For instance, if you suspect acid, too much acid, one of the most alkalining and anti-inflammatory foods is cucumber. Yes, it's one of the most alkalining foods to include in order to restore the alkaline balance that you lost in case. It's also great for things like hangovers, powerfully anti-inflammatory, very alkalining. But that's by the way. So if you are experiencing something like that, a headache, and you suspect acid, then you have to begin to include alkalining foods. Now, on one occasion, it happened that it was a headache. I knew too much stress and acid too, caused by too much of animal protein. That was about 10 years ago, or about 11 years ago precisely. And I was just so busy here and there. And then somehow, I failed to look inwards and take adequate care of my own self. Somehow, it resulted in this headache. And it was so terrible, When the headache comes like that, nothing seems to be working. And it's always advised to stay away from foods that are high in calorie, because almost everything you take seems to offend. If you take tea, like teas with caffeine, sometimes leafy teas seem to offend. If you take oily food, it seems to offend. Most times, water too sometimes helps to resolve it if you take enough water, but not in all cases. The second one I'm going to share with us, water was not able to resolve it. The first one was actually a case that ended up in the hospital. I think that was the last time I had the hospital experience. Almost, let me put it, is more than 13 years. About 13 years ago. Can't quote exactly, but I know it's up to 12, 13 years. That was the last time I had that hospital experience, because it was so serious, so severe. But how did it end up? Actually ended up leaving the place, keeping the drugs I was given, requesting for my conditional discharge. And then I went home and righted the wrongs that I did against my own self. Then gave myself like 1 week of full relaxation, including alkaline foods, apples, cucumber. And in fact, apple and cucumber was able to quickly put it off. But after, I've not had, that experience. I've not had it again. But sometimes this year, I think June or so, I also had something mildly similar, but not up to that. What was able to resolve it? It is cloves. Addition of cloves. I started to chew cloves, like 2 or 3 cloves. And in fact, on one instance, it will work instantly. It will work instantly. On another occasion, it also worked instantly. Now, there is another food also that helps, when another type of food that I would suggest to you: liquid foods. Stay away from foods that are high in calories. Stay away from foods that are, too spicy. Leafy teas was actually, an offending one at that point in time. So as a result of that, I suspected I must have taken too much of the leafy teas. And that must have caused the imbalance. Whatever you take, either you take in excess or you don't take enough, creates an imbalance. And that is what we call disease most of the time. Your job or my job is to reset it, reset our gut, which is usually the playing ground. That is always the point where we usually, throw it out. And once we miss that balance, then we are already, sick. We are already sick. So, apples, cucumbers, they are very alkaline. You're experiencing headache. Remember that you have to remove the peels of your cucumbers. The peels, they are often sprayed with pesticide. It's one of the foods that rarely survives without spraying of pesticides. You can ask the farmers. I have actually been in contact with some farmers of cucumbers, and they also agreed that it's one of the foods that pests like so much. It appears they seem to be enjoying or seeing what we're into. So it's not easy to have a beautiful harvest without spraying some form of pesticide on it. And it is this pesticide that, when you start consuming, that begins to irritate the intestine. At one point in time, I was reading so much about cucumber, but all efforts to incorporate it into my diet failed. I was worried, actually, because each time I read so much, it's alkaline, it's anti-inflammatory, it's this, it's that. But once I go to try it, I begin to have irritations, digestive issues, and upsets. And sometimes I ended up treating it as typhoid then. But after some times, I think something must have told me, I believe, but I didn't see it anywhere. Remove the pills. Go try this food again. Remove the pills. And after removing the pills, I began to enjoy it from that. began to enjoy the benefits. And of course, there are some benefits, there are some nutrients also on the pills, but the pesticides makes those nutrients not easily or readily accessible to us. And so instead of consuming it and feeling uncomfortable, decided to be taking it out and enjoy the juicy uh, cucumber without the peels. And I began to also share to some of my close acquaintances that this is how I take it. And some who also experienced gastric irritation also began to take it that way. So if you have been experiencing, you know, feeling funny and uncomfortable each time you consume it, you can also try, removing the pills because they have been, rendered unhealthy for us because of the pesticides that they spray on it. The same thing with our lovely apples, very, very powerful and alkaline too. But those chemicals also are usually sprayed on it. Sometimes for various reasons, for shelf life and for other commercial purposes. So if you also consider removing the pills, though we are missing so much, you can also go ahead. You'll still get something out of it. Without the pills, you'll still get something. If you are okay with the pills, you can go ahead. But two of them are very powerful alkaline foods. If you suffer frequent headaches, it's important to include them in your diet. And then also cloves. Then there is also an important aspect that we need to also tell ourselves. What is the cause of the headache? I remember one of the steps I took then was to reduce the screen time, reduce nuts, because most nuts are actually high in calories. I tell you, they are wonderful foods rich in nutrients, but when headache comes, it's always better to temporarily stay off them, especially peanuts, because it's very high in omega-6 and, causes inflammations. And most of them, like I said, even the cashew nuts, which is also, a healthy one with antimicrobial properties and other nutrients like zinc. But then, if you are going through things like headache, you need to stay off a little nuts. But there is something also you can take temporarily, which is a substitute with, it's also loaded, it's a seed. You can dry fry your sesame seeds, and take it in order for your brain to get something and for the cells also, because fat is an important part, healthy fat is an important part of our daily diet. And it's not possible for you to have a complete nutrition or diet without fats in it. So, but when you are experiencing or going challenges like headache, you have to be careful with those that are high in calorie, nuts like peanut, I said, calcium, and thiamine. So sometimes taking like 1 or 2, just like a supplement. Soaked, remember, at least 7 to 8 hours of soaking will help the digestion and reduce. We help the digestion and reduce, the the headache. And so if you are experiencing uh, the headache, of course, immediately you get the first signal or sign to keep off your nuts, because they will make matters worse. And not only the nuts, most omega-6 sources. You're welcome.
Thank you, ma.
But you didn't join me on time. I was
I
so
just
like,
I'm in my shop, so I couldn't join because of customer disturbing me.
okay, no wahala. I just okay, let me just go ahead. This
Okay,
not
ma.
I've already I will still share it here, but I've already, said some things that that
Okay,
you
ma.
need to know. I'm talking about headache. I've said a lot already
Okay.
about
Okay, ma.
how you can actually ward it off. If you suspect a headache, that's what I'm talking about. A headache
Okay,
is
ma.
not. I have also successfully, on several occasions, with a sudden headache, been able to reverse it. And I thought to share with us today, you know, so that it shouldn't be something that, when you just, maybe your child is having a headache, you start getting worried or panicking on yourself. No, you just have to identify where the imbalance occurred. There is an imbalance. And so that is why we have different types of headaches. Some at the back, some in the middle, some at the front, depending. So, but whichever one it is, most times I have identified acidity as one of the major sponsors. So if you can include alkaline foods like cucumber without the peels, it will start dealing with the acid aspect, because the body is very complex. So if your body is beginning to alkaline, the balance is being reset, then it will also begin to reduce inflammations. And then the third point is that you have to be properly hydrated at all times. And some also are caused by caffeine. Caffeine. Caffeine helps to relax arteries. It can be used for a temporary or symptomatic relief of headache. But now, it may also surprise you that the same caffeine causes headache. When you are taking it too much and it's already, settled in the blood, and you are still taking, because it's easily addictive. When you are taking things like coffee, you love it, you keep taking, but over time, it may begin to show up by you having frequent headaches. And what is the cause of the headache? Now, I'll tell you what may be the likely cause of people having taking too much coffee, coming up with headaches. But I have had people who came up to complain that they are having headaches at midnight or at certain hours. But over time, on interrogation, I found out that they take lots of coffee, some of them. Now, what does coffee do? Coffee is a beautiful food, a natural food, which I recommend occasionally. But I tell you, coffee starves the cell of fluid, and that's what causes the headache. So for instance, if you need uh, like a glass of water or a bottle of water in a day for you to be properly hydrated. Now, if you take a cup of coffee that day, your body will need about 2 bottles or 1.5 for the cells to get their own fluid, because the work of the coffee dries fluid out of the cells. And that is what, in some cases, makes people to have headache. And of course, you may have heard that some people had headache and took enough water and they were okay. Now, if you take enough water, sufficient water, in most cases you'll be fine. But if you are still taking coffee out of ignorance, the coffee will continue to starve the cells of fluid. But there is a food that does exactly the opposite of what the coffee is doing. And that food is lemon. Hello, Mama Hajarat, are you with me?
I'm with you, ma. I'm in shop, so they are distracting me, but I'm still with you.
Okay, no wahala. It's okay. It's okay. So what I'm saying is that, when people experience that kind of headache and they took water and they are okay, fine. But they must also understand the cause and boycott it. Because if you don't know the cause of a disease, you will be fighting it and feeding it at the same time. And that is
Okay.
where ignorance comes in. So you need to know what caused it, because the coffee starves the cell of fluid. So if you take a cup of coffee or caffeinated teas, let me not uh, accuse coffee too much because I occasionally take it too. Now, if you take caffeinated teas, because the offensive word is caffeine, in coffee is the caffeine that we are actually angry with. Now, if you take any caffeinated beverage, you will need to take 2 times of the water that you have taken. And that's why I advise women who are still trusting God for the fruit of the womb to stay off caffeinated beverages, because it will never allow sufficient fluid inside the body, talk less of the womb where the ovary and everything takes place. So if somebody is going through frequent headaches, you need to also check the food in it. I said too much meat caused one of my own experience that I had was caused by too much meat. After I ate meat and I saw another free meat, when you have eaten something and you now see another one, that was years back. And I always advise people that if you have taken and you see a free one in a party, don't go for it, because it will create problem for you. Don't go for it, especially for the older adults whose metabolic rate has reduced. There's a lot of people die because of too much food. We need God's grace in this regard. A lot of people die because of, all of us, myself inclusive, it's the grace of God that is keeping us. Because sometimes long truth will not allow us, even when you know that you've eaten and this thing is no more, your body can't take it. But because of what I call food craving or long truth, you just go for it and take it, thinking that you'll be fine, or looking for something else to to reduce its effect. Of course, that is also good. If you think you've taken something that may take some time to digest or may even cause headache, it's important to also look for another one to counter it. I know of a lady some time ago who traveled out of the country and was eating the white man food. You know, white man food is different from our own. So the lady traveled out and was enjoying herself with all the white man stuff. And after enjoying everything, came back to Nigeria. Every day is headache. And why? I told her that it's related, it's linked to your gut. It was then she told me that she just came back from overseas, from abroad. I said, okay, no wonder. Because I was telling her that this headache that persistently, check, there is a link somewhere where you were eating things that your body wasn't used to, your stomach wasn't used to. And this is the result of it. The acid imbalance is what is causing it. Every day, frequently, paracetamol. The thing continues like it has come to stay. And what was the advice? To stay to begin to include alkalining foods and exercise a little patience, because the body will normally, I repeat, will normally heal itself. Yes, no matter what. That is the assurance that I have. It does not matter your age. It does not matter how, whatever. But one thing I assure you is that if you discontinue from it, the body will naturally heal itself. But it may take a little time for the body to do that. So I often tell people, when you treat malaria, the so-called malaria we treat, this, some people say, I spoke with someone today, he was drinking so many things, drinking both the local agbo and the English one, everything together. I talked to him, I said, what is in that one? He said, don't you even know that somebody said it's for typhoid and you should add milk into, into it. Okay, I said, so you are going to add milk inside this thing to treat the typhoid? He said, yes, that's what they have been giving them. I said, okay, fine. But will you believe if I tell you that milk is the best food of the typhoid? He said, no, that he has never heard that before. I said, let me tell you, I don't want to talk too much. You find a way to starve that typhoid. That I had this experience, taking all manner of things like this, several years. But for more than 14 years, I've had no business with antibiotics. I've had no business with typhoid. Because if they don't see food to eat, they are there. It's not that they're not inside. They are all over the place. They are living right inside my stomach and your own. But what determines their activity is the food that we bring in. That is what determines how active, whether they will be too active, because when they see too much of food, they become too active. And when they are too active, we are sick. So if you want to keep them less active, you take less sugar, you take less sugar, you take less carbohydrates, you take less trans fats. If you want to make them to become less active so that they won't grow to a point of, challenging your health. Let me put it that way. Because they will always be there. Don't let anybody deceive you that you will destroy all the typhoid in your stomach. It's not possible. They are not going anywhere. So the reason for the headache, like I said, is that many of us are ignorant of the cause. If you know the cause, then you have already gone halfway the cure. I can see another guest. You're welcome. You're welcome. So I said, if you know the cause of the disease, then the cure is almost there. Because the biggest problem is knowing the cause. Many people are not careful to know the cause. Many people are not even bothered about the cause. All they want is a cure, and not just a cure, they want an immediate cure. So they go ahead and continue to enjoy themselves. So I was talking about how if you suffer frequent headaches, you need to check the cause. And I said, most times, you can trace it to your gut. And I gave an example of someone actually who came from outside the country. He traveled from here and went about enjoying all kinds of goodies, only to come back to Nigeria and everyday headache, as if an enemy has thrown an arrow or something. No. And most of the time, my dear, most of the things we call arrow, it's not arrow, my dear. We pray amiss a lot of times. Sometimes what we actually need is rest. I say this to everybody, including pastors. We have lost pastors, we've lost pastors' wives. It's not that it was God's time for them, but it's because they are trying to impress and show that God has called them and they are working. And even when you know that you are aging and you need more rest, you need less rest, you are still trying to meet up. And that's why some of our people do not survive in the battlefield. You know what I mean by battlefield? The world is a battlefield. Once you give your life to Christ, you have been enlisted into the army. Now, whether you will survive in the battlefield, it depends on you, on how knowledgeable and how you're able to operate in the war front. Because this is a war front. The Bible says we are soldiers. It's a war front. So if you need to rest, my dear, you just go and rest. Even if you finish resting today and you think you need more, go ahead and do it. God rested. That's why people suffer headaches. And if they do not, if the mercy of God does not come in, some will just, they are gone like that. Not because it's the will of God, not because it's God's time, but because ignorance. Maybe you are trying to impress your supervisor, or you're trying to impress your pastor, or you're trying to impress someone. So you are running up and down. After the evening program, you have to be in the morning program. After the morning program, you have to be at the men's meeting, women's meeting. From the women's meeting, you go for youth something, from one place to another. Busy here and there. Sorry, this may look or sound like a slight digression, but that's the way it is. Meant for someone. Because at times when I speak, somebody will come and send me a private message and say the thing was meant for him or her. Because that may not be exactly my full focus, but it may be meant for you that you are watching me or someone else. Maybe you'll be running up and down, trying to impress your coordinator or your overseer or whoever. Don't lose your life. Don't invite sickness and disease. Don't invite headache. And when the headache comes, they say, let's pray. Try to pray. Prayer is good, though. It's not that me, I don't like prayer. Prayer is good. But most of the prayers we are praying, like headaches, it's not, we just praying and miss. If you need to rest, go and rest. If you have shouted too much in a video, you may have a headache. And so you need to rest. That is it, my dear. That is it. You need to rest. It's not as if God was tired on the seventh day. The Bible says he rested. So just an example for us to know the importance he places on it. But today, many of us, we even feel guilt conscience if we are not in church. We feel guilty that maybe they say I've backslided. And so what? It's better to be alive, my dear. Better to be alive. I've said this, and I want to say it on this platform, as all of you are watching me, that if you are in that habit, don't destroy yourself. You don't actually need much food. When you are stressed and eat, you start to experience high blood pressure, you start to experience headaches, because digestion is a huge task. One of the biggest jobs for our body is digestion. So, running here and there after doing it, I'm talking to myself as well. Instead of us to relax, we are trying to fix everything. Of course, this country, Nigeria, there's stress everywhere. You're either generator, we're trying to on the gen, to off the gen, switch one thing on, switch one thing off, so many things. And especially these days that people are not even so willing to have someone living with them. I mean, when you have a third party, you may also be risking your life. We see a lot of things online, a lot of terrible, videos that what people do. And so a lot of people just decide to stay and do everything themselves. And of course, since most things are not working, it also contributes to the headache. Financially, I tell you, when you are financially down, some headaches will just start. That's to tell you that there is a strong link between your emotion and your immune system. You notice that when your finances are not where you expect it to be, you just lie down and you wake up and you are feeling slight headache. That's it. And when someone grants that thing, the Bible says that a merry heart doeth good like medicine. When somebody, comes with a good news, or maybe gives you what you're looking for, your expectation is met, you discover after some hours or days, where are those headaches? You can't find them anymore. So many things like that. No wonder the Bible says, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Because this body cannot carry all those loads that we normally put to. The one of yesterday, you are thinking about it. The one of today is there. And the apprehensions of tomorrow, we are still carrying it. And the Lord Jesus said, cast your cares upon me, for I care for you. But many of us, we're not doing it. We don't cast the care on anybody. We are carrying it. And the one who created the body knew the capacity of this machine that he created. You know, every machine has capacity. If you buy anything, they will tell you the capacity of that thing. The creator of this body knew the capacity when he created it. And because of that capacity, he put a caution there. And what is that caution? The caution is that for this machine not to overheat, don't carry yesterday's load on it. Don't put today's load on it. And don't bring tomorrow's load on it. That's the caution that the manufacturer of the machine, this body we are carrying. The Lord said, a body that has thou prepared for me. So this body you are carrying, the person who created it has already put the caution on it, but we're not following it. Don't carry yesterday's problem on this machine. Don't carry today's own on this machine. It will not go. Carry tomorrow on, put on it. How am I going to pay school fees? How am I going to get married? If I'm married, how will I get children? Oh, these my children, how are they doing? So many things we are worried about. And these are the real reason why high blood pressure is on the increase. All kinds of sudden deaths. Even when we see people moving around, they wear fine clothes. Sometimes we're even envying them, thinking that everything is okay. And suddenly you hear somebody drop dead. I know how many news I heard during the week. Shocking news of death. And even today, though I didn't know some of one or two of the ones, but so it's all the same. Young people like that. You see people worrying, all of us though, please, all of us, we're in it together. But it affects our health. That's the point I'm making. Don't say I'm strong, I'm an evangelist, I'm a reverend, I'm this. No. No matter how strong you think you are just like grass, sand. And God knows we are nothing. We are nothing. We may look like we are a prayer machine, we are so powerful, but it's only the grace of God that is sustaining us. Any small thing, we are so worried. We are so worried. I worry myself. So I'm not excluding myself that it's only that I like to pray. And when the worry is trying to cause my health to fail, I cast it on the Lord. I'll throw it to him, say, this one, I can't carry this one. It's getting too much. And that is why I always advise, always consult the superior power of God. This is not a preaching platform. I would like to draw the curtain at this point. I would like to draw the curtain, but you should not forget to hit the subscribe button. If you like what you're hearing, apart from the subscribers already in the house, subscribe so that you will be notified whenever I'm live. Thanks for watching and keep staying healthy, natural. Your wellness coach, Mama G, President and founder, Grace and God Foundation.